So do we. I checked. It looks like we have a quorum. If we can call the meeting to order.
We can. The meeting of the, where am I? Sorry. The Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Authority Zoom meeting is called to order March 19th, 2021 at 8:32 a.m. and I will take the roll. Chair Miley.
Present.
Vice Chair Kaplan.
Present.
Commissioner Reed.
Present.
Commissioner Halbert.
Present.
Commissioner Hill.
Present.
Commissioner Linton.
Present.
Commissioner De La Fuente. And Commissioner Thompson. Alrighty. We have approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Kaplan. Who's second?
Second, Albert.
Second by Albert.
Thank you.
Do we have any speakers on this item?
I see no hands raised.
All right. Want to call the roll?
I'll call the roll. Chair Miley.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kaplan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Halbert.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
I just saw Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner De La Fuente. Okay. Reports, excuse me, open forum. And we have one hand up.
Yes.
Chair Miley, 2 minutes. How long?
Yeah, 2 minutes is good. You want to call that speaker?
I can. Zenny Abraham, I'm unmuting you and you are allowed to talk.
Thank you very much and good morning,
I
everybody.
think I'm unmuting you. I'm asking you to unmute.
I believe I'm unmuted, and let me see, unmute. There. All right, I'll try that again. Thank you very much and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How do you
Good
do?
morning, Vinny.
Hi, everybody. When the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority was enabled, in the original enabling legislation, which has never been changed, had it in its provision to have a 20-person business board. And I'm asking that that be actually activated and for a specific reason. There's chatter around that the athletics are talking about a possible move to Las Vegas. Now, the people that I've talked to say simply it's just that. It's fake news. But it would be fantastic if our guest, the president of Oakland Athletics, basically shot down that, particularly in the middle of a pandemic when people are suffering and we don't need to have this, battling of monies in areas where they're better spent someplace else. We don't want to have that kind of, image put out there. But if we had a business board, they would have better eyes on the ground because you guys are in different, you're looking in different areas. And Henry doesn't have a huge staff to help him out with this sort of thing. A business board would be better. And really, that was the idea when it was first formed. Thank you. I'm not saying I say better. Let me clarify. I don't mean replacing anybody. Okay. I mean just simply adding accordion like it was designed when Ezra put it together.
Thanks, Zenny. Do we have any other public speakers?
Sorry, I was muted. No, there are not.
Okay, so maybe that particular item can be discussed when the president of the A's speaks. Okay, now earlier I heard folks wanted to alter some items on the agenda. Is this true?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have two special guests, and I was recommending that we let them make their presentations so that if they need to be excused, it can be. One is the president of the A's, Dave Kaval, whose face I see, and the other is our outside auditor who was scheduled to present at the last meeting. We had some technical difficulties, and she's with us today. So if we could hear from our special guests first, and then go back to our other business items.
Yeah, that's quite all right. Do you have a preference who goes first?
Oh, no. Dave, how much time do you need?
Just, 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm going to ask, people have questions too about our operations and getting started April 1st. So
Since he's talking, let's let him go first, and we'll have the outside auditor follow him.
All right, so let's have item 5A, report from Oakland Athletics President Dave Kaval. Appreciate you, Dave, joining us this morning. The floor is yours.
Thanks so much for having me, Supervisor, and Henry, thanks for organizing this. As everyone knows, we are getting ready to play some baseball at the Oakland Alameda Coliseum in front of fans. April 1st will be our home opener. We have been working for almost 2 months with the state of California, Dr. Galley, and his staff on a safe reopening plan, which was approved about 2 weeks ago. And so we will be operating at 20% capacity at the Coliseum, which is approximately 11,000 fans, all socially distanced, all masked, ensuring that we have a safe environment for our fans, our players, and our staff. So it's going to be very important that we follow all the protocols from the state, who has obviously been working hand in hand with the county authorities as well, to ensure that this is going to be a safe operation. The baseball team, we're here at Mesa, Arizona right now. I'm down in Arizona. We've been operating also at 20% capacity in Arizona. So it's been a good test run. Things have been working fine. We've had no cases at all, no positive tests. And so I think there's some good learnings in terms of porting that over to the operations at the Coliseum. I also want to thank Henry Gardner and his staff and ASM for allowing us to coexist in a very positive way with the mass vaccination site. We are going to be doing all our parking in the south lot and having all the patrons approach from the south. The mass vaccination site will be on the north lot. Will continue as is, continue to provide an important service to the East Bay community. And so those two things can happen at the same time. And everything was designed in a way where that would be accommodated. And that was a huge part of what the JPA and ASM and everyone associated with the organization led. And so that was something that I just want to thank everyone for their hard work on that, because that's super important for us. We will start in the red tier at the 20%. There is a possibility that it could be relaxed and the capacity could be slightly expanded. But as long as there's a 6 feet spacing between all patrons, which we will have, the most we can actually fit with 6 feet is actually 24%, which is about, 13,000 fans. So that's probably the way it's going to be until we get to some type of green tier, which I'm not, I can't predict when that would happen. But that is the current plan for the operations. If there's any questions on what we're doing there, I'd be happy to answer any questions and, address anything related to getting our season started. We're very excited to welcome people back. I think it can be part of the healing, getting to the post-pandemic world, the new normal, that folks can come back out to the ballpark and catch a game and just enjoy that time in a socially distanced, safe fashion.
Let me just initially say, Dave, we definitely appreciate the A's. We are definitely excited that fans can once again experience the games. That is just fantastic. I want to publicly acknowledge you and the A's for providing community benefit to help at the vaccination. You've used the Coliseum for voting and flu shots. You just really stepped up as worthy community partners, and that's at this point in time, but you've been doing things in the past as well. So I just want to publicly acknowledge all that. I don't know if you want to speak to anything that Zenny Abrams brought up. I don't know if you know Zenny. Zenny used to work for the one of our mayors, Mayor Elihu Harris, and Zenny has a lot of knowledge in terms of following sports. So he raised the issue. I haven't heard anything about the A's considering leaving Oakland, but do you want to speak to that? I'm not stating.
Well, I know Zenny very well. I've done interviews with him. I think he's an exceptional journalist. And, as folks know, we're pursuing with all the energy known to mankind an effort to build that Howard terminal. We won a lawsuit against Schnitzer Steel earlier this year. We have the draft environmental impact report that was just released about 2 weeks ago, which is a huge accomplishment, 2 years in the making, tens of millions of dollars of investment. And we are focused on getting the City Council of Oakland to vote, hopefully affirmatively, on that project this year. And that is our singular focus. And we're doing everything we can to make that happen. And as some of the other people on this call who are involved in the efforts in the legal negotiations and business negotiations, there's a lot of work that's going into it. And it's something that we're very passionate about. We have an incredible vision for the waterfront. We really want to make this happen. And we want to do everything we can to do it in a positive way, a responsible way that's good not only for the A's and our fans, but also just the community at large in the East End. Because, obviously a baseball team is an important community asset. So that's our focus, and that's what we've been doing. And it's been, there's been obviously ups and downs with any other journey and any other approval process and building in California, but we've had some good success recently.
Okay, thank you. So Margaret, do we have any of the commissioners want to ask questions or make statements before we go to?
Yeah. I had a question. I wanted to know, is you're limiting capacity? Are you providing for multiple price points for ticketing? How are you dealing with that issue?
So we've been focused mostly on having our existing season ticket holders who bought these things called flex ticks buy tickets. So there's been no tickets available actually to the general public yet. When they become available to the general public, they will be more expensive. So we've been focusing on people who have bought with us for many years, many Oakland residents, and giving them a first priority. But it is a challenge because we typically have 20,000 fans per game. That's our average number of fans. And we only have capacity for half of that. So there is a supply and demand challenge. And we're trying to do everything we can to accommodate people, to get everyone in the building. Everyone wants to be there opening night. It's going to be a huge night. But we want to do it in a way that's responsible and ensure that people have a good experience. And so we've been trying to do that with these things like the flex ticks, which establishes a lower price for people so they don't have to go and buy, on these StubHub sites, these secondary markets where it can get very much bid up. So that's something we've been very focused on this week before the public on sale, which is on the 23rd.
Okay,
Sure. Oh, go ahead. I apologize, you all. I can't see you. This is Commissioner Reed. I'll follow you, Commissioner Hill, through the chair if I can.
Thank you. I just had one follow-up question, which is, so tickets will be available to the general public. I'm sorry, on what date? I wanted to understand.
The 23rd, March 23rd.
Perfect.
March 23rd.
Thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Reed. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair Miley. I apologize. I'm not sure if you heard that my connection is not allowing me to see you or mute or have any of those functions. So I apologize if I interrupted. I just wanted to follow Commissioner Hill's question. You indicated, and thank you so much for your partnership with the Coliseum site. I'm so grateful for that. We are, especially in District 7 in Oakland. This, through the chair, this is to Dave. I just wanted to clarify on this initial opening day, you indicated that there was no general ticket sales and that the tickets are being distributed or have been distributed to those who typically had a relationship through the A's. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, so we've been basically, there's an order in which we are selling the tickets, and it starts with our existing season ticket holders. And then we're moving through the different bands of that. And then we get to the general public on the 23rd of March. So the first tickets went on sale actually yesterday. And then, we'll have additional tickets go on sale today. So then it'll be kind of a process. The 23rd, it'll be the general tickets go on sale to anyone. And it includes not just opening day, it's the entire season at the 20% capacity. And so that is kind of the order in which that we've been rolling out tickets to ensure that people have an opportunity to buy them.
Okay. How will you ensure, with the limitations that you have on capacity, and just in the midst of all the challenges, and I know the good work that you have led in ensuring that there has been equity of community able to access and enjoy this incredible sport and support the A's, how will you ensure that there's equity with the process to make sure that East Oaklanders around the stadium and others will still be able to plug in and connect and enjoy the A's with the restricted limitations on tickets, including these opening days?
Yeah, we have existing relationships with community groups across both East and West Oakland, and even in places like Chinatown that we are working with to distribute tickets. It's called the Commissioner's Ticket Program, and it allows for a certain number of tickets, usually about 10% of the capacity of any game, for those groups to ensure that they can come out to the ballpark. And so we are definitely still implementing those programs. That's happening with, key groups so they can make sure that they have kind of a special access to get to the games. And we're hopeful as capacity expands that we'll be able to expand that as well. But yes, there is a mechanism to do that, and that is an important goal for us.
Thank you. Sure, our youth and our seniors and those aren't
Absolutely.
or underserved communities would love to get out and enjoy a day at the ballpark.
Any other commissioners?
Yes,
Yeah.
Chair Miley, if I could say a few words, it's Albert.
Yes.
So I would like to also thank Mr. Kaval and the A's organization for making the Coliseum site available for the mass vaccination and working so hard to ensure that you can also have a season of ensuring equity. Thank you for being with us today. And we are watching closely at your progress at Howard Terminal and hoping for the best for all parties. I would just say, go A's, have a great season, and thank you for thinking so highly of the community. Thank you.
If there are no other commissioners, Mark, if we have public speakers, we can call them.
Give it a sec. I see no hands raised.
No hands?
No hands, no public speakers.
All right. No public speaker? No.
Oh, one just went up. Up to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Uh,
Mr. Abraham, you may speak.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate Dave Kaval on the work he's done. And because I don't want to be misunderstood about my previous message. Dave, you've been a godsend to this city, and your work and your commitment to the city has historically been without parallel. We have to go back many decades to find a comparison. So I just want to get that on the record. Thanks.
Okay.
That is all.
Right. Anything else from commissioners? All right. Well, Dave, thanks a lot for joining us. You are always welcome. And at some point, we'll get two representatives on the JPA from the A's, because we know the A's are working and it's a major deal with the county, but we'll all be around for about 6 more years and longer in this relationship. And we're hoping that the A's bring the World Series home this year.
We have a World Series contender. We have a great team. So we're going to make that happen, Nate. Let's do it.
Take care.
Great, guys. Appreciate having me.
A's.
Go Oakland.
Go A's. Go A's.
Thank you.
Okay, let's have our next speaker. I think it's the outside auditor.
I think that the county auditor will make the introduction. I don't see her. Melissa Wilk, are you on?
I'm here.
Okay, will you make the introduction of our outside auditor for her presentation?
Sure. Annie Louie is a partner at MGO, or Macias, Ginny and O'Connell, and she has well over a decade of experience in performing audits for public agencies. So I'd like to introduce Annie and have her open up her presentation. Hi, Annie.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Melissa. Let me share my screen of the presentation, which should also be in the packet. I'm getting a message that I cannot share screen. So if everyone, okay.
You should be able to share now.
Perfect. I am able to share now. Okay. I'll give it a second to load. Hopefully everyone can see my presentation on the screen now.
It is showing now, and
Yes.
just for those who don't have working screen systems, is what you're showing on the screen the same as what's in the agenda packet? Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
this thing
sorry.
for anyone who can't see the screen is in the agenda packet that's posted on the website. Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So again, thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to present the audit results to the commission. This is the audit results for the authority's fiscal year 1920 financial statements in the packet, and I'm here to present 3 reports today. One is the financial statement audit with the auditor's report thereon, and that also includes our government auditing standards report because the authority's audit was performed under government auditing standards. That report will include any control issues that we may have identified during the audit. And then a third report that is in the packet is the report to the Board of Commissioners that communicates a list of required communications directly from the audit firm to the Commission as the governing body. So this presentation highlights the key items from the financial statement audit, as well as some of the more significant items in the audit process I'll go over in a later slide. As you know, the auditor's report has a modified opinion for the general fund as well as the debt service fund of the authority. So we did issue an adverse opinion related to the governmental activities as well as the special revenue fund for the authority. And the reason for that is laid out in the report itself, as well as discussed in note 4 to the basic financial statements. As you may recall, the authority has loans receivable from the Oakland Raiders in the amount of $189 million as of June 30 of 2020. And these loans have increased by 9.6 million during the fiscal year under audit, and have increased by a total of 126 million since the inception of these loans. Historically, the authority has not adopted a methodology for reviewing the collectibility of these loans reported in the governmental activities as well as the special revenue fund, and thus have not provided for an allowance for uncollectible amounts, which is required under generally accepted accounting principles. And so the reason for the adverse opinion is exactly because of that. Because the analysis has not done, the amount by which the total assets, net position, fund balance, as well as the changes in net position and fund balance of the respective funds have not been determined. And in terms of the government auditing standards report, like I mentioned, this particular report covers any control deficiencies that we may have identified during the audit, and we issue a material weakness over internal controls for exactly the same reason that I just had mentioned. Okay. The next report and the next 2 slides focuses on our report to the Commissioner. This report is a standard report that highlights any qualitative aspects of the audit that you may not see in the financial statements, and it really focuses on the audit process. A couple of things I'd like to highlight is our responsibility as the auditor, as well as management responsibility. As you see in the slide presentation, management is responsible for preparing the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and to define and implement effective internal controls over financial reporting and as well as compliance with any significant requirements that may have a financial impact. Our responsibility is to communicate directly with you as the body charged with governance, and also to design the audit procedures and carry out the audit plan to provide an opinion on the fairness of the financial statement. This table here summarizes the significant items from the report to the Commissioner. These items are standard, and they're listed here not because they are necessarily issues or problems with the audit, but these are standard communications routine items. And as you can see, for most of the items, I don't have anything special that I'd like to highlight for the authority's fiscal year 20 audit. A couple of items that I do want to highlight for the Commission is in terms of corrected and uncorrected audit misstatements. We did have an uncorrected audit statement that resulted in the adverse opinion, as I had discussed earlier, that related to the loans receivable. Towards the middle of this chart here, the significant financial statements estimates and disclosures. These are to highlight the parts of the financial statements that do involve significant estimates that go into the financial statements themselves. Again, there are no issues in terms of the estimates, but these are highlighted to bring it to your attention that estimates do occur as part of the financial reporting process, and the actual results may differ from estimates as of the financial statement date. And then lastly, as you all know, COVID has had an impact on the authority, and so we did have a note disclosure this year regarding the uncertainty of the operations and potential impact on the authority's financial statements going forward. Lastly, I would like to thank management and the rest of the team for the assistance during the audit. Despite COVID situation, we were able to complete the audit fairly smoothly and issue the financial statements right before Christmas. And I'll take any questions that you may have at this point.
Thank you. I know I have a couple of questions, but I'll wait because maybe it might be asked by someone else. So let me see if any of the commissioners have questions first.
Yes, Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I wanted to first just ask process-wise, have the correction you recommended, has that been made at this point? That might be to our internal team.
I think that this is Henry Gardner. I think that the correction that Ms. Louie is referring to goes back to the issue of the Raiders loan. Is that correct, Ms. Louie?
Yes, that's what I was asking about.
Then I think that either Ms. Wilk or Craig, a Boyer, might be able to respond to that. There's a reason that we continue to show that in our financials as we do. Can Ms. Wilk or Craig Boyer respond to that question?
Sure. So, and county council may want to jump in as well, or council, it's been the decision of management to not make the allowance for the collectability of the outstanding Raider loan in order to protect the legal claim of the authority to the assets that were outlined in the loan agreement. So this has been a finding for many, many years. And now that the Raiders have moved on, we need to consider looking at how we are showing that on our financials and potentially looking at either writing it off or how we now move forward. So at this point, we have made no adjustments.
And have you had that discussion with our outside auditor?
Not at this time, but the plan is to do it within this financial and fiscal year.
Okay, so I'd just like to request at the appropriate time if we could get a follow-up on that in terms of resolving the right way to handle the funds that are in some state of unclarity. If that can't be fully cleared up today because these other issues regarding the outstanding concerns need to be resolved, then I'd like to have it come back to us in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was basically what I was going to be asking about too. So I think Melissa said we'll be taking this matter up during this fiscal year.
Correct. And we would absolutely work with your board and likely the Board of Supervisors and City Council.
And we're talking, because I said this fiscal year, so we're actually talking fiscal year 21-22, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, because we would like, now that the Raiders are gone, yeah, we would like to get this matter cleared up to make a decision how we're going to pursue this. Okay.
Actually, Nate, we can look at it for fiscal 21.
So over the next couple of months.
Correct.
Okay. Any other commissioners have questions? Comments? Margaret, do we have any speakers on this item?
We do have one speaker on this item, Mr. Abraham.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Regarding the matter of the Raiders issue, isn't it better to wait until the disposition of the active lawsuit before you make a decision regarding that situation? Because it could be used against you in court. Just my view. Thank you.
I don't know if council's going to speak to that, Zane, but thanks for pointing that out. And I think they'll take that under advisement.
You're welcome.
Any speakers?
There appear to be no more speakers.
All right. I think this is an action item. I believe we need to vote on this. Yes? No?
I think it's to accept the auditor's report.
Right.
If we get a motion to accept
I'll
the,
move that we accept the auditor's report as presented.
May I ask a question about that?
okay, yes.
Since we've said we're going to continue to look into this particular issue over the next couple months, would it be better for us to not yet formally accept the report while that is looked into?
If I might, Mr. Chair, that doesn't change the auditor's report. The auditor's report is the finding that is made. It's based on the facts that were presented to her. So whatever we do in the future is not going to change the auditor's report.
Okay.
And this was also for fiscal year 2020.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Gardner, but thank you for raising the question. So I think we had a motion, but I didn't hear a second.
I'll second the motion.
And it's moved by Halbert, second by Linton. Any other?
All right. I can call the roll. Chair Miley?
Just a second, just to make sure, and there are no speakers on the motion, right?
No, you've already taken the speaker.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay,
No worries. Chair Miley,
yes.
Vice Chair Kaplan,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Halbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Linton,
Yes.
Commissioner De La Fuente is absent. Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion passes.
Mr. Chair, the vice chair had requested at the beginning of the meeting if we're moving things around on this report, which I think is okay. But I think that there's some time constraints maybe for some of the people who want to comment on this. Item number 5D, Vice Chair Kaplan, did you call for that item to be taken next?
As you wish.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Why don't we queue up 5D and have a report from Commissioner Kaplan and the Mass Vaccination Task Force, and appreciate the work of Commissioner Kaplan and Reed, and I know Thompson has been involved in this as well. All three of you have been tracking this and working it very, very effectively. So, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And again, good morning to everybody, to my colleagues and members of the public and all the staff and everyone who's been working so hard to fight for an effective and equitable vaccination system for our community. And thank you, colleagues, for designating me to chair our vaccination task force. We have been working very hard a great many days and working to push significant state and federal leadership to better serve our community. In terms of what's been going on so far, our work together on the logistics of the Coliseum site have been very successful. We did successfully arrange to have public transit access for the site. We did successfully figure out the vehicle flow in a way that was effective, and the numbers of vaccines provided have been at or exceeding the numbers anticipated. So I thought I would start with saying the parts that we have been successful at so far. We also have encountered significant hurdles in terms of the statewide system and the ways in which it perpetuates and worsens inequities in our community. The state has now released some of the preliminary demographic data showing who has been vaccinated, and that data reaffirms what we have been telling the state and federal leadership, which is that their system is absolutely failing on equity. It is disproportionately giving out vaccines to white suburban communities and is disproportionately underserving African American communities, and in some cases also underserving Latino communities communities as well. And that has continued to be a problem. Several of us wrote up a letter diagnosing the problem and listing specific solutions, which we presented to our state and federal partners. It's important to note that the site is run by CalOES, that's the California Office of Emergency Services, and FEMA. From the federal government. And so it is not actually run by the local agencies. And so in terms of getting those state and federal partners to make the changes needed to stop perpetrating the inequities on our community, we have attained some changes that we asked for, but many of them have not yet been made. And so I want to thank everyone who signed the letter and made phone calls and had meetings to work on this. We did ask for an expansion of the use of community-based mobile sites where the vaccines are brought out in a large RV truck to community-based sites in a way that better reaches hard-hit communities, and they have agreed to expand that. However, even with that, we need to continue to reinforce the importance of, when you're working with a community-based partner, the vital, essential nature of treating people with respect, of not cutting off appointments or shutting down appointments that people had made through those systems, and of interacting in a way that treats our community partners as persons having the expertise that they do have to reach the communities that they are succeeding dramatically at reaching, even while the California main system is not having that success. In terms of some other changes we asked for, we did note that the statewide sign-up website known as My Turn has been programmed in a way that is worsening the inequities, and that while state and federal leaders stated that they were opening the Coliseum site for the purpose of reaching our surrounding hard-hit communities, such as East Oakland and the Fruitvale, that the way they have programmed the computer system that does the signups, they have not, in fact, actually done that. Rather, the My Turn website is giving away appointments to wealthy, distant suburbs rather than targeting them for the local hard-hit communities. And so we have had some really important steps forward and some very in-depth conversation with some of the leadership at OES. However, we need to continue to really work, one, on FEMA to authorize more of the vaccine to go through these community-based processes. Our Alameda County Public Health Department is fully ready and willing to deploy vaccines through vans that they work with to go directly to some of the hardest hit underserved communities. And thus far, FEMA has declined to provide vaccines for that system. So that is a specific request that we will need to elevate and reiterate. At the state level, the governor did announce 2 weeks ago that they were changing the system to target the high need zip codes. However, that change has not actually been made yet as of today. And so that's something we also will need to continue to uplift and elevate. And they have agreed to bring more mobile sites to our community partners, including Allen Temple. And we are incredibly grateful to Allen Temple for their huge amount of work that they have been putting into filling the gaps that the state and federal officials were not filling. And thus they were able to reach out to community that was not otherwise being served. However, we do need our state and federal partners to increase their supportiveness of that effort. So I would say, there have been some really important accomplishments, but I think it will be vital for us to continue to work together to press for those additional pieces that are still needed, as we need to continue to make sure that everyone in our community, including the hardest hit communities, which include Black and Latino residents, are getting adequately served, which has not been the case fully so far. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to get to push to make sure that our community health is protected. And of course, we also have on the line with us several of the other people who've been working very hard on this. So I think I should pause at this point and leave room for the other participants to add their comments as well. And thank you. It's been a really important opportunity to fight for this work.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. I have a few comments to make on this, but let me hear first if Commissioner Reed and or Thompson have anything they'd like to add. Commissioner Reed or Thompson, do you have anything to add to this?
I was yielding to Commissioner Reed. Me.
I was about to say, I'm yielding to Commissioner Thompson. I'll have you share first, just as a representative of this body and just the significant and incredible role that you have been leading in the community.
Good morning, everyone. I apologize for having my camera on, but we are preparing for second doses that are going to take place tomorrow and Sunday, all day. So I'm doing double duty as usual. And we're certainly grateful to Commissioner Kaplan, to Commissioner Reed, as well as Henry Gardner for all of the tremendous work that they have done, the tremendous advocacy that they have done that have resulted in a third mobile unit that is now toggling between East Oakland and West Oakland. So our church is the East Oakland side. I believe True Vine Ministries is the West Oakland side. They're also working on trying to bring some more mobile units. However, I came on to reinforce that every single issue and challenge that Commissioner Kaplan raised is crucial. And it is my hope that we will be able to continue to address those so that the people who need to receive the vaccination most are able to do so. And we certainly are grateful for our faith-based partners and other CBOs as well who have expressed interest and who are also doing the work of education and advocacy and outreach and all of the things that need to happen to make sure that those persons who are not necessarily connected, don't have access, are able to do that. So I just wanted to echo my thanks and hope that we can move forward on addressing the inequities.
Thank you. I will follow both well-stated concerns from Commissioner Kaplan and certainly the sentiments from Commissioner Thompson. The governor made a call at our press conference here in Oakland at the site. And I believe that call was a call for equity in this moment. And we continue to lift up that call for equity to ensure that those who have been most at risk, those who have been diagnosed and have lost their life to COVID, and those communities that are most impacted are served. And so I just appreciate the partnership that we've had. And while we have had great challenges with Cal OES and working to hold them accountable and to maintain the pursuit of equity, I will say that there have been some within that organization who have been incredibly supportive with helping us to push against those hurdles and challenges. And so I do want to acknowledge that there have been several who've been connected and supportive, particularly with our mobile site launches that I want to acknowledge, along with our county partners. Our county Department of Public Health has been exceptional in every way with helping us to lift up equity throughout the city and certainly throughout the county. And I just want to acknowledge our county partners, the leadership of our county, our medical director, the team. They have been phenomenal, and they have continued to push and deliver more equitable outcomes across the county, and especially with how they're working to show up strong in Oakland. I too want to thank Commissioner Thompson, our other community-based organizations and faith-based organizations who have taken on a Herculean effort and have somehow been able to manage through all the challenges and show up strong, having hundreds wait for hours with great patience for this much needed vaccine. And they have been able to serve them in line. They have been able to secure sites as trusted, credible partners and messengers. And we are excited that there is some relief that is coming to them for the work that they're leading. And so I just wanted to add that and to share that we are looking forward to seeing how the vaccinations continue to progress, to have our entire community vaccinated that is desiring. And we're hoping that even more. We have not seen that hesitation in our community in East Oakland at these sites, nor in West Oakland in supporting True Vine Ministries. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank again the county for their partnership. And thank you, Commissioner Thompson, with the work that you are leading. We know it's not been an easy journey for you. And we're grateful that you're still in the fight, where the fight is with us here in Oakland. So I just wanted to add those comments. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Kaplan, for the incredible leadership and the daily work that we have been leading between Commissioner Thompson, Mr. Gardner, you, and myself with these efforts as a team. It's been a great tag team with us and the task force that's working. I will also say that District 7 has its own COVID task force where we meet bi-weekly beyond our JPA task force with those community-based organizations and faith-based organizations who are meeting the needs of our communities and especially our communities of color. And so I want to thank the D7 Community COVID Task Force for their efforts and my staff, Haley Hester, for helping to lead us out with that.
Commissioner Reed, so let me just add to this a bit because I've been monitoring and tracking the situation. And I do feel that Commissioners Reed, Kaplan, and Thompson, along with Mr. Gardner, have been doing a tremendous job bird dogging this and speaking to this. From the nice perspective, I've sent a letter to the state, the head of our healthcare services agency, who's a direct report to the Board of Supervisors, has sent a letter to the state, and then the Board of Supervisors as a body has sent a letter to the state, all capturing everything that has been articulated this morning. Just so everyone knows, my chief of staff continues to monitor and participate in the meetings, the Coliseum vaccine task force meetings. I am not able to attend most of those meetings because of other obligations, but she's there as well as the county administrator, and they keep me informed. And once again, the county administrator's direct report to the Board of Supervisors, the public health director who works for the Healthcare Services Agency reports to us through the Healthcare Services Agency director. President Carson of the Board of Supervisors is on phone calls constantly about this, as well as Colleen Chawa, the head of our agency. So there's a lot of people that have been weighing in on this particular matter, trying to push for improvements. And I know, as Commissioner Kaplan pointed out, begrudgingly, there have been some improvements, but not, I would say not significant, and nor to the degree any of us would find acceptable. But we have gotten a little progress. I know I haven't been out to visit the Allen Temple site. I hope that Commissioner Thompson would be comfortable with me coming out maybe this weekend, maybe tomorrow, in fact, because I'd like to see your site. I've visited some of the other sites, but I haven't seen the Allen Temple site yet. So I'd love to come there and take a look at it, maybe on Saturday morning, if that's okay.
You are absolutely more than welcome. Anytime, just show up. We'll be there.
Okay, all right, very good, very good.
Chair Miley?
Yes.
I would also like to add, as you indicated, your chief of staff, Tona, has been at the table, equally at the table, who have been championing from your office out into the community and from the community back to that table, are Daryl and Aaron. They have all played a significant role from your team on the task force. And I just wanted to acknowledge that your presence has been there. I know that there have been other meetings involved with your time, but your team has been there and they've been lifting up the voice of the community and they've been driving the questions and concerns with us. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Because, I didn't want this thing to revolve around my availability, because I've known you, Treva, for many years, and Rebecca for way too many years, and Pastor Thompson, I know of her. It was good to have those remarks you made when Larry Reed was leaving. I didn't realize that I was so impressionable upon you many years ago. So I know Mr. Gardner. So my feeling was, with the four of you doing what you're doing, there is no need for me to even sweat it because
That
you're going to work it. Yeah.
that is not the case at all. Chairperson Miley is being far too modest. While he has not been on camera at most of these meetings, he listens in. I get comments from him. His staff has been extremely well represented. You are always present. You're present through Colleen Chola, who's almost always at the meetings. You're present through Dr. Clannon, who's almost always at the meetings. So you are very much present. The county has been an extremely active leading partner in this effort. Let me just back up for one sentence. When we started out, we were talking about how we maximize the use of the Coliseum site to make sure that there's smooth operation, there's access. We had our first meetings and we quickly moved from that to, well, wait a minute. That's all the logistics stuff. How do we make sure that the people that we really want to make sure get vaccinated, so that we move to a whole different agenda. Let me make one other quick comment. We keep talking about the we. The we are about 20 people. I told you we have the coalition of the 7, and that is Kaplan, Reed, Muranishi, Riskin, Dave Kaval, and Henry Gardner. That immediately expanded to Chola, to Clannon, to Tona. This we is a very, very large.
Yes.
And the people have been working extremely hard. I have never seen a higher level of commitment of public service for a very worthy cause. So when we talk about the we, we're talking about a long list of we. We're trying to make sure that we don't get ahead of the county. The county is the health department. And so we work very closely, Nate, with all of your people and make sure that we're not getting ahead of where the county is. So this we is a very large group. Thank you all very much.
Yes,
Okay.
and I would also add that Kimmy has been incredible at the community tables as well. I don't know, we didn't acknowledge her, but her, along with Dr. Clannon and Colleen, have been at more community tables than I can probably count.
Yeah, for people, when Commissioner Reed mentioned Kimmy is the head of our public health department, and she's passes that responsibility. Okay. Any other commissioners have any?
Supervisor Miley, I don't want to belabor the points, but just to reinforce everything that was said by my colleagues, this is a local control. We know our communities better than the state. And to reinforce again, Supervisor Miley, Supervisor Carson, Supervisor Chan, Supervisor Biley, myself, Nate, Keith, Wilma, they not only talk the talk, walk the walk indeed, are pushing hard in every meeting that I've been at. And to reinforce again what was said about our staff, our director, Colleen Chawla, and her whole team have an equity lens as wide as can be, and they want to do the right thing. We all want to do the right thing. We need the state to jump on board, as was said. That's all I'll say. Reinforce all the comments that were made. Well said by Vice Chair Kaplan. I cannot be as eloquent as you. You said it all. I'm simply going to reinforce and validate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, before we leave this topic, if I may.
Sure, and I'm also going to see if there's any public comment too.
Thank you, and thank you for the amen corner. Thank you, Commissioner Halbert. So I did want to also, before we leave this topic, make sure we hear if there was anything else from Commissioner Thompson, who has been so directly on the ground with resolving these issues. And bless you and thank you for all you've done. And I wanted to share that some of the state leadership have told us that our work with the community, with the church, with East Oakland has changed their thinking for all that they are doing statewide and nationwide, and has helped them begun to rethink why it is they're failing so dramatically on equity throughout the state and what they need to be doing differently. And that when some of them saw the success at Allen Temple, that it changed their view of what needs to happen. So
Chair Miley, I would just echo, I would hope that if there was any way possible that the county would remain at the forefront of this issue because the county has been the buffer. I serve in dual roles. I'm a commissioner, but also leading a CBO that's doing this work. And it is the county that has been the buffer between our interaction with the state and the federal agencies. I think what Commissioner Kaplan is not going to say, but I have no problem saying for you all publicly, is after the initial mobile vaccination site, I had declined to move forward, because interfacing with those agencies had become such a stress and a challenge. And it was also not, it did not produce a field of dignity for the people that we were serving. But it was the county. The state actually reached out to the county and said, will you please have a conversation, please intervene. And so currently this has gone much better than it originally did because the county was present, not just at the table in conversation at community meetings. We appreciate that. But the county is actually lending their resources, their expertise, their sign-up system, so that people who really need to access have been able to access without going through all of the my turns and appointment cancellations and all of the things that can serve as barriers for persons that we are trying to reach to participate. And so as we continue to do this work, I pray that we will continue to fight, as Commissioner Howard has said, for local presence. We know what we're doing. And if the feds want to do something, if the state would like to do something, they can empower us with the resources to do the work and to learn the lessons and carry them to other communities like ours.
Thanks, Commissioner. for
Absolutely.
Because,
Amen. And
you're 100% correct. Some of our staff and many of our staff have been working relentlessly and tirelessly. And as Commissioner Halbert pointed out, Board of Supervisors, we get weekly updates at least twice a week. We're having updates. We're being kept informed. She'll contact myself since this is in my district, or she'll contact the president of the Board of Supervisors, President Carson. And as I said, he's involved in this behind the scenes in many calls. So yeah, we're not gonna step back from this. But yeah, some of the stuff that you hear locally from some of the state officials, they can only do so much. It's up the chain of command, and I'm not going to point any fingers in terms of the chain of command in the state, but the point is it's above some of the folks who are doing the job. If they had their way, I think there'd be more changes, but they don't.
We recognize that, and just know that I've requested meetings with those folks too.
Okay.
Those up there as well.
And one of the big things we've been fighting most recently is the third-party administrator. Trying to decide whether or not we're going to sign that contract. Because of Blue Shield. I mean, that's been one of the major discussions we've been having because of the restrictions that are being placed upon us relative to that. So there's been a lot of back and forth on that piece as well, because we know, depending on how that comes out, that could have an impact on the availability of vaccine dosages. So yeah, there are a lot of moving parts, but I just want you to point out our staff, many of our staff, are working relentlessly on this issue and anything else related to COVID. It's I can't say enough about the work that they're doing.
Absolutely. And their work has been incredible and absolutely essential to resolving the parts that have been resolved and to helping with that communication. And so I'd like to suggest that we would send a follow-up letter that would particularly also target FEMA in terms of, we put in a request for FEMA to allocate some of the vaccines to the county, which then the county can give out through their system, which is much more effective at reaching underserved communities. And so far, FEMA has declined to do that. So I did want to suggest that we would send that follow-up to FEMA to again reinforce the importance of them doing that would also help very much, that the county is fully prepared to take those vaccines and get them to the communities in need, if FEMA could be persuaded to allow them to do so.
Chair Miley?
Yes.
Yes, I would hope so. If Oakland is, one of the two significant pilots of helping to develop the national playbook, as they say, for FEMA, then I think that's critical that we get Oakland and certainly LA right, and that we also continue to put the press on for the demographic data that they have not been willing to provide the county or the city as we've requested, whether through Cal OES and or Cal OES and FEMA for that information on how we're looking to deliver more through that data.
So, Commissioner Kaplan, did you want that letter to, who's the letter coming from? Is it coming from the JPA or, yeah, how you?
Not from the JPA. And what I would suggest is that we have further discussion about this at our meeting on Monday and decide who the appropriate signatories are for such a letter. Again, following the lead of the county. So I would suggest that we move that to our Monday meeting. We're not asking for any specific authorization. This is a coalition of the will. And it's really not. When I give my report, I'm going to talk more about how we even got to this, because this is not where we started. So I would suggest we move that to our Monday meeting, and then we'll coordinate with you, Mr. Chair, as a supervisor and chair of this committee, to make sure that we have the appropriate signatories on such a letter.
If that's acceptable. Okay.
Sounds great to me, and thank you all, and thank you again to everyone who has been fighting so hard to make this happen, and thank you again, Commissioner Thompson, who has been having to pick up some of the extra work because of some of these problems, and has been so dedicated to serving the community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. So do we have any public speakers on this item?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, thank you for that report. So I think we're now ready to go back to Mr. Gardner's report. I believe that's where
That is correct, and I will be brief. I have 4 items that I want to address quickly. One is the OAS operations, because this is how we got into this task force. We've completed now the 5th week of vaccinations. I think by this weekend, we will have reached about 200,000. And that was the original focus. You know, it was all about how we arrange this logistically so that there is a smooth operation, that we can get people into the facility and out of the facility in an organized fashion, that there's good coordination with our ASM staff. They're doing about 7,000 to 8,000 vaccinations a day. And beginning this week, they have moved to second doses only. And that is going to continue probably for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then they'll be going back to first doses. And it's not clear yet what those first doses are going to be. They very well may be Johnson & Johnson. The operations have been fairly smooth. We've had no incidents of any kind, no medical incidents, no disruptive behavior, a few backups, but they have not lasted very long. So that part of the operation has gone very well. They have indicated to us that they plan to transition to a handoff to a county management team. They have not been clear about who that is. The only one I can think of is the incident management team, which is the group that we started working with before Cal OES got involved. But we'll let you know. We have said that when that happens, we need advance notice. We need to make sure that it is a seamless transition and that there's no confusion. One of the other things I should mention is that when OES and the Office of General Services indicated that they wanted to use the facility, we said, yes, absolutely. We'll do everything we are able to do to make sure that it is accommodated in a safe and orderly fashion. But we said, but hold on, we need some rent. And so we spent some time, pardon me, negotiating the lease agreement. We got them to $100,000 a month. And so that's the agreement. In addition to that, they are to pay for any extraordinary expenses. They're using a lot of water, so we're measuring that separately. They reimburse us for that. They have asked for ASM staff to help in a variety of ways. And so we bill them for any direct staff support that we're providing them with. So it's not a free arrangement. It will help us in some modest ways with our budget, but they are paying. The next item is the food and beverages contract we have with Ignacio de la Fuente. I don't think he's...
Mr. Gardner.
Yes.
Can I interrupt you for a moment?
Oh, sure. For each item, yes, please.
Yeah. So if we could just, on that particular item, the operations there and make a vaccination site.
Yes.
I just want to, I failed to acknowledge that Dr. Moss, who is the health officer of the county, is on the line.
Oh.
And I want to at least give Dr. Moss an opportunity to chime in on any regarding the site and also the A's their numbers at the Coliseum for opening. See if Dr. Moss has anything he wants to state about any of this stuff from his perspective as the health officer. He's the one that makes the order, quite frankly. So I just want to give him a chance to speak to the mega site and to the A's, the number of folks who will be at the A's site for opening day. Dr. Moss.
Thanks, Supervisor Miley, Chair Miley, I should say, and good morning, everyone. I was glad to be on and listen in on the earlier conversations, and I just wanted to express first of all, my gratitude for the partnership, both with us and, of course, with the state and federal partners on the vaccine site, but also the advocacy of Commissioner Kaplan and the other commissioners and people who have been advocating for addressing some of the issues that were raised in terms of equitable distribution of vaccine, getting it into the right people here in Alameda County who were not being served. And so I'm just incredibly grateful and also appreciative of the kind words for Director Watkins-Hart, Director Chawla, and Dr. Clannon for their efforts. This is absolutely our mission, and appreciate what has been said here. And of course, I appreciate the leadership of our County Board of Supervisors and supporting all of our COVID efforts, including our vaccine efforts. And then, so with regard to the A's, so first of all, we are at this point in the pandemic, we are really deferring to the states restrictions for reopening. We are not layering on additional restrictions here at the county. This is for a variety of reasons, and this includes the state moving to allow outdoor live events, including professional sports. And so, that said, I'm still looking forward to seeing the state's detailed guidance. I have read the A's plan, and I think it's reasonable. I just want to make sure that it's consistent with what the state is going to put in print. But I'm confident it will be, and I do think that what I've seen of the A's plan is reasonable and doesn't, certainly at this time in the pandemic, represent a concern for public health. I'm sorry if our more hands-off approach with this is, that we didn't have a chance to speak about this with the commission earlier. But again, we are trying to really stick with the state across all of these restrictions as the state's guidance has gotten better. And I really didn't have anything else to add beyond those things, but I'm happy to take a deeper dive on any of these topics and appreciate having the chance to join this morning.
Moss, you're involved in some of those calls with state officials, right? Any insight in terms of what we might be able to do to be more persuasive, or who we need to be talking to?
I have to be honest. So I'm in the sort of health officer, public health department, California Department of Public Health calls and communications, and a lot of policy decisions regarding the pandemic and certainly vaccine are actually being made at a higher level or in other government agencies. So I have less view into those, although Director Chawla does in her capacity, both as our agency director and also as a president of the State Association of Health Executives. And so I think that's to our, that's helpful for us here locally. But certainly in the conversations that I'm in, we continue to advocate for both sensible, practical approach to the local restrictions and a sensible approach to reopening. I do think in general that's where the state is at. And sometimes in the details there are some wrinkles that are tough to iron out. And then similarly with vaccine. And so we are advocating for. I think in many ways the vaccine stuff has been more challenging than the shelter-in-place restrictions in terms of meeting some of these needs that have been highlighted in this call by the commissioners and I think addressed by the advocacy of the commissioners, the vaccine task force, and some of the individuals. I would highlight Commissioner Thompson's efforts and of course Commissioner Kaplan's efforts and so. I think those things have really moved the needle, and they're going to move the needle in places beyond Alameda County. But we are where we have the opportunity, really trying to improve our local control so that we can keep meeting what we see as the local needs and where the state's plan is failing. When I get the chance to reach higher up, I certainly tried to take it.
Then Dr. Moss. I asked Dr. Moss if he would attend today's meeting. So as the health officer, just so the public who's on the call today and the commissioners, can you just speak to what would state in terms of the pandemic and the need for everyone to continue to do what we need to do, even though we're vaccinated, because we don't want to have to go back. We're in the red tier. We're advancing. Hopefully things are going well, but there's still always that potential of another surge, and it's a potential that we could go in reverse, and then the state would make that call, and then obviously you as our health officer would be giving directives to do certain things. So if you could just speak to that so that folks are kind of aware of the situation, the tenuous situation that we're presently in.
Yes, certainly. So, I agree. Right now is relatively good. Our case rates are lower and falling. They're not as low as they could be, but we are continuing to move in the right direction. And so that's very reassuring. We've been in this place before, and the winter surge, actually was much worse than anything we saw previously, and that's really only a matter of a couple months ago now. And so I think we need to be extremely cautious. I think we have not vaccinated. We're doing great in Alameda County, in part because of the efforts of you all and the vaccine task force. But we are far short of where we need to be in terms of herd immunity. And I think there is absolutely a vulnerability, especially with, as the virus, we're learning more about how the virus changes over time. So, we need to push ahead. We need to get more people vaccinated. We need to remain, I think, cautious and keep some of these precautions in place while we sort of gradually reopen. Moving slowly does seem to work. Alameda County has been, I think, among the best large, densely populated counties in America in terms of how we've done. And part of that, I think, was because early shelter in place and moving slowly earlier in the pandemic. And although we are moving more closely with the state now, I think the state's, it's the right tempo. So gradual reopening, staying on guard, continuing with, I think, physical distancing, masks, keeping things outdoors as much as possible. That's where we are right now. But I am confident as more people get vaccinated and we get a sense of, where things are going with the pandemic, we will be able to continue loosening up. There are surges going on in other parts of the world. It's far from over. So we are asking our community members or businesses to hang in there. But I'm glad to be in a position of sort of cautious reopening right now. And I do think we'll get to the next, the orange tier and some additional reopening. And with luck, maybe with enough vaccine, will avoid anything like what we saw with the winter surge going forward.
Thanks, Dr. Moss. So I just wanted, Mr. Gardner, I just wanted to give Dr. Moss an opportunity to speak because it was my mistake in not acknowledging his presence with us today as the county health officer who issues the order that we all have to follow. So we can continue Mr. Gardner's report unless there's any commissioners that have any questions or comments they want to make to Dr. Moss.
No, just thank you, doctor, for all the work. I know it's been a challenge for all of us, but really appreciate the work. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Gardner.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Moss, and welcome. The next item I want to just address briefly, you designated Commissioners De La Fuente and Hill to work with me to negotiate a contract with Levy for food and beverages services. We have completed those negotiations. Because of the break, we were not able to simply extend the current contract. We will need to have a new contract. And the attorneys are working on that. I'll be bringing that back to you at the April meeting. But our negotiations are concluded, and we'll be making a recommendation for entering into a contract with Levy at the April meeting. I think that the issues and concerns regarding the healthcare coverage, all of those have been covered during this period, and I don't think there's been any break. So the question will be, when will we be able to open the arena? We've had a lot of discussion now about the stadium. That's an outdoor facility, and the constraints are going to be higher, of course, for an indoor facility. We just don't know. We have, and if Nicole Strange is on the call, when she talks about upcoming events, she can address that. But I think we have an announced June event. Whether or not we'll be able to host anything in the arena that soon is a huge question mark. One of the things that will be a challenge for us is if we get notice that, yes, we are able to open up the arena, we'll need time, obviously, for the promoters to promote whatever the event is and activity, and that goes right back to the Levy contract. There is no work for them unless there's something going on in the arena. So balancing all of that, orchestrating all of that, coordinating all of that is going to be somewhat of a challenge as we move forward. Based on where we are right now, I don't know if Dr. Moss is still on the call, June seems unlikely to me for the arena because it is a closed facility. Secondly, unlike the A's who can start with 20%, I don't know what the threshold will be for promoters to be profitable. You know, for example, they say, well, you can do 25% seating. How successful we'd be in promoting events. Maybe some of that will happen, just don't know, too early to tell. And then the last item, which will lead to our resolution is, unless there's some questions about that, any questions about the Levy contract and opening up the arena and what that might look like and the timing for that? Does someone want to speak to that? I can't tell.
May I ask a question through the chair?
So we have no commissioners with their hands raised, but we do have a member of the public with their hand raised.
Right.
Mr. Abraham.
Thank you. Regarding the matter of preparing the arena, has a study been done or analysis or budget been done about the preparation of the arena so that it can better filter out and circulate air? There's an assumption that we're getting back to normal as opposed to the simple fact is we're not going to have that normal again. Why not, prepare the arena to better circulate air for the future? And what would that cost?
Don't have cost figures for it. That issue has been raised. That's something that we will continue to look at. Scott Haggerty had suggested we followed up on that. There's no funding for that through the Air Resources Board to assist in that. But that is one of the things that we will be looking at to improve the air circulation in the arena. Right now, we have not done a detailed, in fact, maybe Nicole can speak to that. I don't recall that we had a figure that we came up with of what it would cost to do that. But that is something that will be under consideration.
Thank you.
And I'll ask Nicole to address that if she's able to when she speaks. Nicole Strange. So the resolution that we have on the agenda recommending for your approval is to make an adjustment to transfer approximately $850,000 from the capital improvement budget to the operating budget. Of that amount, $650,000 would be moving money from capital in the arena, and $200,000 moving money from capital for the stadium. We need to recategorize these because these are really not capital improvements, as we talk about them in my memo. These are really contingency line items for projects that support events. They include things like staff uniforms, well, that's not a capital improvement. Rubber floor mats, water faucets, toilets, ice plant refrigerations. These are not capital improvements at all. So we need to recategorize those going forward. Moving this from capital to operations would have no detrimental impact on any of our operations, our repairs, or our preparedness. When we developed the budget in June, we're looking forward at what the upcoming needs might be. Because of the pandemic, some of this stuff has not been as urgent and can be moved to next fiscal year. We have pared the staff at ASM considerably. You may recall that there was a 54% reduction. We had hoped and anticipated that starting January of this year, we would have some events that would produce additional revenues. Well, of course, that hasn't happened. I have scrutinized their budget along with the county auditor and controller, and we're convinced that this is a reasonable request. It is one that we would recommend, and we recommend it to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about that.
Move approval of the budget amendment.
Well, we'll get to that. That's under new business.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's let Mr. Gardner finish his report.
I am finished. And so when we get to that item, I've given you, if you want to talk about it some more, I've given you the justification for the what I think is justification for the recommendation to approve the resolution when we get to that item.
So any commissioners have any questions, further questions of Mr. Gardner at this time? All right, hearing none, let's have the general manager's report. Nicole.
Good morning, everyone. To address some of the topics that have come up in earlier discussion, yes, we do have some events on the calendar starting in June. As you all know, it depends on the tiers we move into and how quickly people are getting vaccinated. So I will share with you that many of these promoters have multiple holds at the end of this year and into 2022. So TBD on those events. It all depends on how we're doing with COVID and moving into the future. To address the last caller on the air filters, yes, we have a whole venue shield reactivation plan where we've determined all costs for everything needed to reactivate the arena. Like I said, it all depends on where we're at when we get to our new normal and we're allowed to have fans and guests in the arena. So all of that is being looked into by our staff, and costs are being determined, and we'll be sharing that with you guys soon. I'm sure that a bunch of it will be in the capital for next year's fiscal budget, if not sooner, if we keep moving in the right direction. So, moving on, wanted to talk about some of the events that we've been having on property. The first one is the California Nurses Association Caravan, which happened on February 6th. Approximately 100 vehicles used our site as a rally point to decorate cars and make announcements. This was a They were coming together to promote healthcare for all. Similar rallies and events were happening all over the state on the same day. This happened in our north parking lot in D lot. We also had the U.S. Army Weapons of Mass Destruction training on February 12th in our Stadium East Side Club. This was approximately 50 people. Local law enforcement agencies were in attendance, as well as Cal OES. Moving on, we had the AI self-driving vehicle testing from February 20th to the 23rd. This was a rental in our south parking lot, B lot. 15 to 20 people, 12 hours a day. They were just doing vehicle testing. Moving on, the Temple Beth Abraham Purim event on February 25th. Temple Beth Abraham celebrated the holiday Purim on site as a drive-through event. Approximately 100 vehicles were on site, and there was 4 different activity stations that were organized in G lot on the south side. On March 6th, we had the supplybank.org air purifier distribution event. 500 plus Bay Area child care providers received air purifiers to help make their classrooms or care centers a safer and healthier space. This event also took place in our south parking lots. Just to add a couple notes, I know it's been talked about at length, the mass vaccination site, which, as you know, started on February 16th. We have signed a contract with Cal OES and DGS through July 5th. We meet with Cal OES every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to discuss property-wide logistics. With the mass vaccination site, 20 daily ASM part-time staff were able to be brought back to work to staff our site. This includes security, maintenance, and wardrobe. They don't work the mass vaccination site, but they stand literally on the other side of the line, protecting our arena and buildings, ensuring that nobody from the site crosses over onto our side. And then just a reminder, Cal OES invited the JPA board members to do a walkthrough of the site. So please let me or Henry know when you guys want to walk the site if you haven't done so, and we can set that up and get that organized for you all. Any questions?
Yeah, Nicole, I also, I'm encouraging Commissioner Halbert, since he's new to the JPA, to meet with you at some point and not necessarily get a tour of the mass vaccination site, but the facilities, the complex, the arena, and the Coliseum. I know I've been on those tours and quite familiar with the both facilities. I think it'd be very good if Commissioner Halbert could do that just for his own edification. And then can you also speak to the A's and logistically how things are going to work with them opening up and with us fans being able to attend?
Yes, we're very excited. The A's are starting, like Kaval said, April 1st, 11,000 fans. So all their fans will park on the south side of the property while the mass vaccination site is happening on the north side. We're also very excited because our ASM staff members, engineering, stagehand, sound techs, maintenance, all work A's games. So it's great to get people back to work with more fans in the stadium, requires more staff. So we're very excited. We work hand in hand with the A's, communicate almost daily on their logistics and what's coming down the pike from the MLB and getting everything organized. So we're very excited to have more people on property and have the use of the stadium start on April 1st. Any questions about the A's?
There won't be any vendors open, right?
What do you mean vendors?
Food vendors.
Food vendors at stadium.
Correct. They will have no concession stands open, but they'll be delivering food to people in the seats.
Yeah, they won't be lining up in the concourse, but they can order food, but the food will be delivered to them individually to their seats.
Okay.
As I understand.
Yeah, and so we'll have additional people working.
Yes, exactly. Aramark's been on site getting ready for the season this entire month. There's a lot going on site. It's good to have people back and get people back in the motion of running events.
Okay, all right. And yeah, Nicole has taken the place of Chris Wright. Somebody asked that question, and I see Commissioner Linton wants to take a tour of the vaccination site.
On the vaccination tour, if people can let Renee Savage know if you're interested, and those can be done individually or they can be done in a group of 2 or 3 or whatever works for your calendars. So if you could let Ms. Savage know of your interest in touring the vaccination sites, then she can coordinate that with the Cal OES people.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? So before we leave these reports, do we have?
Sorry, but yeah, there's a member of the public with his hand raised. Mr. Abraham?
Yeah, thank you. Very quick, this is to the AEG representative. What kind of system or protocol is there to make sure that the food sold is free of the virus? Because the presentation, presents the idea that this is going to be just like it was before, and that can't really work. Thank you.
That's a great question. I can't tell if Kaval is still on the line. The A's manage that relationship with the food vendor.
Dave Hudson, was that you running the marathon? Which one are you in the background there?
What? That's hilarious. Onward.
I think Nicole was speaking. Nicole, do you want to finish?
Yes. So I'm not sure if Kaval is still on, but Aramark works directly with the A's to manage the F&B for A's games. So he would be the best one to answer that question.
Thank you very much.
I don't believe he's still on.
As I understand it, the stadiums are operating under the state's guidelines. I thought that the approval was done by the county health officer, but Ms. Chawla informed me that they are operating under the state guidelines. So we have to see whatever the state said. They may be permitted to do it under what circumstances.
If I may, why not lead the state? Because my impression is that there's not a chain of understanding of how all this fits together, not by you guys, but in general. And it seems like there's a lot of agents acting and a mistake could be made. Thank you.
Any other speakers on this item?
I do not see any.
All right. I think we've completed all the reports under item 5. So hearing no other commissioners, public comment, we will move to item 6.
Mr. Chair, I have given my report on that item. If you have any further questions or comments, if none, then I recommend approval of the resolution as presented.
May I read it into the record?
Oh.
Yes.
Please. Thank you. Adopt a resolution approving an amendment to the fiscal year 2021 budget to transfer $850,000 from budgeted capital contingency line items to arena $640,000 and stadium $190,000 operations line items.
So moved.
Don't move, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Kaplan, seconded by Dela Fuente. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments on this motion? Do we have any public speakers on this item?
Mr. Abraham.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't intend to say anything. I thought I was lowering my hand to say no. No. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So do you want to call the roll?
I will. Chair Miley,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kaplan,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Hobart,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Linton,
Yes.
Commissioner De La Fuente,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so are we recessing into closed session now?
There is no closed session meeting.
All right. So I think this brings us to adjournment.
Before doing so, if I might.
There is a report from closed session, if we might.
Oh,
I was gonna speak.
Go ahead, Bijal. Bijal's got it.
okay.
Oh, Andrea, I didn't know you were here. Okay, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Gardner, did you want to say anything else or should I move on?
No. I just said that there was no closed session item on the agenda. You're going to report from closed session, right?
That's correct.
Okay, yes.
This is Bijal Patel from the City Attorney's Office representing the JPA Joint Council. And we would like to report on a final action taken by the JPA Board at its February 19th, 2021 meeting. And this was with respect to a unanimous approval to vote on the agreement between the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Authority and Golden State Warriors LLC to resolve the fees, costs, and disbursements owed to date in arbitration and the state court action. And as this is just an oral report, I wanted to just provide a little bit more summary. This agreement is related to the arbitration proceeding that was initiated against the authority, and it was captioned under the Golden State Warriors LLC versus OACC American Arbitration Association case number 02-17-006. 0157. And in that arbitration, after an arbitration hearing, a final arbitration award was awarded to the authority back in January 17, 2019 by the Honorable Rebecca J. Westerfield. And in that arbitration award, the judge awarded $816,317.13 for fees and cost, attorney's fees and cost to the authority. Golden State Warriors initiated a Superior Court action pursuant to the license agreement. They had the ability to do that. They pursued a Superior Court action in February 2019. The Superior Court affirmed in favor of the authority. The Golden State Warriors appealed that decision as well. And the appellate court also affirmed, and the Golden State Warriors sought for the Supreme Court of California to accept an appeal, and that was denied. And so there was affirmation on the amount that was awarded to the authority. This agreement is a settlement, but it basically is an aggregate of all of the costs that are owed to the authority based on that initial award. And to summarize, the components are as follows. The Golden State Warriors will pay a sum of $1.2 million of attorney's fees and costs to the authority. And that is comprised of $816,317.13, which was the initial award that was awarded by the arbitrator. In addition, it includes post-judgment accrued interest, and it also includes fees and costs that have been incurred since that initial state court action. And that is how we came to the $1.2 million. And so, as I reported, this is a final action. This was approved by the JPA board on February 19th. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
And then we have the check.
We will be getting the check. I think the agreement requires us to receive the check in 15 days after execution of the agreement.
Move to approve.
So move. Second.
Is that necessary?
No action is necessary. It was
No
taken
action.
into session. The agreement was executed on March 15th, so we should receive payment on or before March 30th.
Okay, thank you. And it's unfortunate the Warriors decided to leave Oakland.
Maybe.
The all indications are pointing in that direction based on how things are going for them over across the state. And I'm not going to say any more.
I have a quick comment, not related to that, unless there's some comments related to the Warriors issue. I want to remind all of you that Form 700 Statement of Economic Interest is due not later than April 1st. And so if you do not have, you may get copies of that actually online, just going to the state's website. You are to submit those to the county auditor, Melissa Wilk, not later than April 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. And hopefully I said the Warriors, not the A's, the Warriors.
You said the Warriors, I think.
Okay, good, good. All right.
I just want to add one comment on that, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I want to thank everyone who worked very hard on the case. It's been an interesting experience for myself because I previously served on the JPA, and in that previous session, we undertook the deliberation and the decision to hire lawyers to fight that case, and made the decision to fight that case with the Warriors' attempt to steal tens of millions of dollars from our taxpayers. And we prevailed. And so I want us to, honor and celebrate that really important victory. We protect our taxpayers from the loss of tens of millions of dollars. And so I want to thank my colleagues on the JPA several years ago who all agreed to undertake that fight and hire the lawyers to undertake that fight. And I want to congratulate everyone involved in this really important victory to protect our community.
For sure. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. I think we stand adjourned. Everybody, wear your mask. When it's your turn, get vaccinated. And once you get vaccinated, still continue to wear your mask and practice all those safety protocols.
Commissioner Hubner, you're supposed to call me at 10:30, I think.
Henry, I saw in the meeting notes, it looks like he had to step away for another meeting.
Yeah, I think he's gone. Yeah.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Bye.
And so everyone.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
So that actually, the meeting is over, and so let me get to answering some of your questions. I think the one question, if Mr. Duckworth is around, asks, will soccer be hosted when the popularity overtakes baseball? I think that's, with all due respect, the wrong question. The question is, have there been organizations that have stepped forward, all right, to want to have MLS soccer in the Coliseum? And the answer is, yeah, that's how we got the Oakland Roots, soccer organization. That it's a relationship between the city going after soccer. We don't have, and they're looking at the only guy who started a sports commission in Oakland. We need one, okay? But right now, where we're at is because of where monies are going, you have an inordinate number of people who don't have money. Let's keep that in mind, all right? You have an inordinate number of people who don't have money. And so for the public to spend money to develop a sports commission to go after someone right now, as opposed to a private effort, privately financed, would not be the right way to go. What we would have to do if I were running the JPA is I would catalyze a private financed effort, right? And then that gets us away from being accused of spending public money on something when you have people who are starving. If the private sector wants to do that, fine. But even then, you have to keep this in mind. The beauty of having sports on a professional level at the Coliseum or any stadium organization effort is the number of entry-level jobs provided that people can assemble into a full-time job if they need to. I know some people here may not like hearing that, but the reality is one lady told me at the Coliseum 3-4 years ago, she's able to piece, this is when we're trying to keep the Raiders in Oakland, she was able to piece together a 4-hour engagement with the Raiders, the game, with another 4-hour engagement with the Warriors of the A's, and boom, boom, she's got, a full-time job. Michael says, I am assuming the new stadium was the agenda today. Well, that's interesting because we don't officially have an approval for the construction of a specific new stadium of a design. Okay, so we're not there yet. We have an arena, right? So I could take your question here and apply to the not the arena, but to the arena too, but also to the current stadium, right? It's open air. Where we're at right now is you have to remember something too. We have a gigantic infrastructure legislation that's coming up at the federal level that we have to get involved in. We're in the middle of planning, okay? And we should be. And so if you have an idea right now, my suggestion is if you have the idea you want it published, put an email to me here, and I'll publish it under your name, right? Or an observation, and get it out there, because now is the time to start shaping public opinion. Okay, cool. And now is the time to start shaping public opinion to lead to something. Because in all these questions, one person assumes that somebody else is going to do something or not. So as far as rounding out the meeting of what happened, Dave Kaval gave his presentation and basically talked about the readiness of the A's to return the Coliseum at 25% capacity. That's interesting. I'll get to that in a second. But and then there was extensive discussion regarding the vaccinations. The city is receiving $100,000 per month from state and federal government for the vaccinations at the Coliseum, the federal government, I should say. And they're also going to be reimbursed for the water use, which Executive Director Gardner said was such that, which is extensive, is what he said, and that they are going to be reimbursed. That's when, I don't know, because he didn't give out that information when asked. But and then there was an overarching concern that the way the vaccinations and the vaccination schedules and signups and communication are designed, it tends to favor those who are in higher income areas than not. And the emphasis needs to be placed on the. I think personally, if you want to get people vaccinated who are from the low area, you got the Coliseum is in East Oakland, and you need to go old fashioned. You need to put signs on light posts saying, "Hey, get your vaccination here," and then you need to go political. Like you're running a political campaign, make sure they get text messages to people in those areas, right? And that way you get the word out. It's not difficult to issue a communication. And the problem here is that the federal government steps in, and unfortunately, when you hear an elected official say, well, okay, they are responsible for, the other side of it means that there's not a protocol that says, local government first. In fact, in all this, there should be always a local government. There should be a budget for somebody at the local government to make sure the local government objectives are addressed first. Okay, that should be automatic. And that way, there's no need to guess about what the government is doing on a lot higher level, because you have a liaison. If you don't have that liaison, that's what you get. Okay. And so, all right. So my point is that, Michael, I'm not interested in that. I want to focus more on the more complex issue of how government works than this ground level garbage that people like to get into that involves, race and sex and all this stuff. Okay. That's not, if you're here for that, forget it. But there are more complicated issues that have to do with service delivery, the people who need the services in the middle of a pandemic. And the Coliseum is front and center in delivering those services. And that's what this discussion's about. It's not about that. Okay. So Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So getting back to what I was saying, that's where they were in terms of discussing the virus and the vaccination and getting out the vaccinations. And if I didn't say this before, I did tweet it out. I'll say it again, and I'll follow it up with a vlog. In fact, I'll just do it in a second with my handy dandy in our network. The Coliseum's issued 200,000 vaccines at the Coliseum to date. All right. So I'm about to close out here. I want to also end by saying that the athletics need to stop. I mean, just in their tracks. Any social media activity that implies they're moving from Oakland, because in the middle of a situation where they're about to come to a vote with elected officials, it's going to make them queasy. And if I were elected official, I would say, hey, you know what? I want you to sign this non-relocation agreement now. And that should be like now. And then that non-relocation agreement should say unequivocally that you're committed to Oakland here, right there. Okay, but all this chatter that's out and about is happening because, given the people who are talking, and given the fact that you've got elected officials who are concerned the A's are talking about Portland, and Portland has a plan, there's still this 1 foot out the door image. And that this time has got to be stopped. And we've got to get back to, reforming. Oh, no, not a problem, Mr. Duckworth. We got to get back to reforming. We have to get back to planning. And what happens is that we either plan or react. And right now, I still feel like we're reacting to what other people do rather than planning and directing what happens. There's a gigantic difference. And what happens is that if you don't plan, particularly with a multi-billion-dollar facility like the Coliseum, there's no excuse for not planning what happens in the future, and basically trying to basically pave the road ahead, right? And make sure that even if you might want the state or federal government to do this, direct them. Be the activist for your own facility. And right now, I feel like we're not that. And that's not a criticism of my friends who are in charge of it. It's just it's an observation about what we're not doing as an institution. Okay. And so, and what I'm talking about is not, critical of the stadium. Mr. Duckworth is saying that, I think the old stadium's goal should be kept. Great. What I'm talking about is how we operate, new stadium, old stadium, whatever, but how we operate. And the overarching problem is that we tend to treat the Coliseum as if it's a high school facility rather than a multi-billion-dollar facility. There's a gigantic difference, okay? When Bob Quintella was the president and we had a Coliseum board that was privately ran, by city edict, of course, I walked in representing L.U. Harris as mayor. I was his economic advisor, and Quintella had a map, and he could tell you where the Coliseum is going to be in terms of land acquisition 5 years and 10 years out. They had a plan for the Coliseum and its future, and we don't have that now. We have people, and so what happens when you don't have a plan, someone comes in, they can reorient your plan because you have no plan. And if that person gets the right elected officials to rubber stamp A, B, and C, then the facility gets dragged in that direction without any thought of whether or not it is right for the city and what its objectives are, rather than those private objectives, or for the people. Okay, so and that happens when you don't have a plan. And right now, overall, we don't have a plan. Okay. And that could be just a sheet of paper that writes out goals, objectives, facility used now, facility used next year, the year after that. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be a wish list, which gives us flexibility. But we need to have something that orients our thinking. And right now, we don't have that. All right. So I got to but subscribe to Zenny62. And let me get to your other, because I don't want to give you the, he was saying battle of the sexes, real women's soccer is a very heated issue. I tend to look at it like this. As a guy who started the Oakland Alameda County Sports Commission, I think all sports, we had a list or something that we should try to get. We had a list of 212 sports events we were going after. That was the plan. And what happened was Jerry Brown didn't want me to run the sports commission anymore because I accused him of being racist. And, I'm not going to hide from that at all. I never have. And he had a set of issues that he needed to work on and that were really revealed later in terms of comments that he made just last year, where he said that he didn't want, poorer people essentially in downtown Oakland getting, financed money, subsidized housing near his expensive restaurants during the 10K project. And look, he said that. Okay. And when I was trying to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland, it was hard for me to get a meeting with him. These things don't go away. He apologized for it. I accept the apology many times. But the problem is that Jerry left a legacy for Oakland that he then doubled down on when he became governor. He got rid of redevelopment and therefore killed the affordable housing fund that we had. Okay. And if we had maintained that affordable housing fund, which is bringing us by that point $111 million in 1 year alone, we would not have the homeless problem to the degree we have it now. There are people who wanted that stopped because they felt that Oakland wasn't reaching its highest level in terms of market value. But my point is, you have to balance. Market value is us. That's people. It's not something that happens in nature. It happens in terms of growing on trees and everything. It happens by people making decisions that sometimes negatively affect each other. The job of a government is to mitigate against market forces that hurt people. Jerry took away redevelopment, which would have mitigated a market force that caused people to be homeless. All right. He ripped it away. And that's got to be reminded of. That's what he did. And yet, Jerry says he's a Democrat. That's a Republican move. So anyway, point is that you have to make sure the government is always planning. You have to think about how that impacts people. And then if you want to move in a certain direction, you have to plan for it. And we don't, regarding the Coliseum, do that. All right. We're in a reactive mode, and we have to go from a reactive mode to a planning mode. And then you adjust the plan as you go along. That's called incremental planning. There are a lot of scholarly documents on incremental planning, right? All right. So it is 10:30. I'm shoving off. Thank you, everybody else. Be back later. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. And that ends. Oh, one moment. He says, let the women come. Yeah, well, that's different. Class relocation is a hard issue. Yeah. Okay. At any rate, subscribe to Zenny62, bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. Thank you.